All right, I think we're live. Are we live, Megan?
Yep.
Excellent. Hi, everyone. This is Mayor Brandon Whipple. I'm here with Nate from the Wichita Transit. We're going to talk a little bit about not just transit, but also some opportunities that we created last week when it came to free bus fares on Saturday. But first, Nate, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, not doing too bad. Just getting through the week. Right now, I just wanted to ask you about with the stay-in orders and stay-home orders. Of course, buses are an essential asset in our community. We still have some people still have to get to work. Of course, people have to get to the grocery store, to their doctor's office, and so on. So, tell us about some of the stuff that those who are working on the buses and also for the riders have done to make sure that we lower the risk of spreading the virus.
Sure. Well, first and foremost, safety is always our highest priority, and that's always been the case with transit. Right now, for additional measures, we're cleaning touch point surfaces on the bus every time it comes into the transit center. So those touch point surfaces will be like your handrails, the tops of seats, fare boxes, things like that. Anything that people might touch on a frequent basis. So every time it comes into the transit centers throughout the day, every single one of our buses is getting that additional cleaning. In addition to that, in the evenings, we spray disinfect all of our buses. We use only CDC and EPA approved cleaners. And with those, we spray the inside of the bus to let that sit there and basically soak on the surfaces overnight to give that a thorough disinfectant coating on there. Recently, we also introduced some barriers or plastic shields between the drivers and our passengers at the front door. So that's an area on the bus where you would typically have closer than that 6-foot distance in between somebody. And that's allowing a transparent barrier between the driver and the passengers. So it helps reduce any kind of airborne contact.
So in addition to a mask, our drivers actually have shields?
Yes. So these are basically most of the time plexiglass type shields that can swing in front of the drivers and swing out of the way. Mm-hmm. And that is in addition to the masks that we're now requiring all of our drivers to wear.
Excellent.
In addition to that, we've always had hand sanitizer stations on the buses. So those are stocked and we monitor those every night, making sure those are full. So those are available to both our drivers and the passengers. And we're also monitoring the health of our drivers. So every morning or afternoon when they report to work, we give them a temperature reading and make sure they're in that safe temperature to be considered healthy to work. And then we're also recommending that all of our passengers wear face covering masks as well.
Excellent. So part of those face covering masks, one day I showed up and we had masks available to us, and I believe it was some of our workers over at Transit that put these together. Is that true? Could you talk to us a little bit about that?
That's right. Our director came up with this idea of making these, we're calling them face coverings, since they're not medical masks, but they work well to help spread the virus. We're reserving the medical supplies for those that need them most. But according to the CDC and the Federal Transit Administration, these are recommended and effective to help reduce the spread of the virus. Was it in mid-March when we had a pretty sudden drop-off in ridership due to the stay-at-home order? We found that we had some available time with our drivers, and they volunteered to make literally thousands of these masks that have been utilized by our staff, our passengers, and even available to other city employees as well.
Yeah, they're actually the ones I wear. Is this
Yes.
one I show?
Perfect.
So pretty much, who came up with the design? It just seems like something that was found around the shop, I guess, but it's effective. It actually meets the spray test, I guess. So
Right.
whose idea was it to just go out there and use that time to be more productive in fighting the spread of COVID?
Sure. Our director, Mike Tan, found the instructions to make these, and it was his idea to basically start an operation to make them. Being in transit, we had our own mechanics and everything, so we already had supplies of these shop towels. We had some rubber bands in administration. We made a few, tested them out, and found out they worked pretty well. And made them available from there.
Excellent, excellent. We appreciate not just what you guys do on the buses, but also what you do to help this entire building stay a little more safe. We have a big box of these out front. So I want to talk to you a little bit about, I had a constituent shoot me an email, maybe it was 2 weeks ago, asking for a way to have like a bus pass or some type of free transit during this tough time, where she described that there are people who likely need to get to a food pantry, get to grocery store or pharmacy, and with the not being able to work, a lot of people are struggling right now for gas money, for transportation money, and after talking to Brandon Johnson, who's a council member, and then bouncing some ideas on how we can get this enacted, we were able to work with your guys' department to get Saturdays between now and I think the end of June completely free. Can you talk to us a little bit about that?
Sure. This was our way of trying to help out in the community. As you saw, there was a request and need for it. We came up with Saturdays because we have less ridership on Saturdays than we do during the week. So that provides a greater opportunity to socially distance from passengers on the bus, at the transit center, bus stops, so forth. And then on Saturdays, we still have 16 routes running. Every single one of those routes goes by a grocery store and pharmacy, or a combination of the two of those. I checked this afternoon, and sure enough, every route I looked at, there was at least one of those on the route. So it's certainly a viable option for people to use to get their essentials. And they can also transfer at the downtown transit center to go basically in the city limits on other routes as well, to get to specific places if they need to.
And something they could plan around. I did get a email from someone over the weekend who said that, are we worried about putting too much people on the buses, encouraging people now to ride the buses? And I think it's really smart working with your department that Saturday was suggested because it is a lower transit day.
That's right.
We have less people utilizing the bus, I guess, to go to work. So naturally, just with the general routes and usage, it's less dense.
Yes, and we all are taking additional measures on the bus. We've blocked off every other seat, so that's not available for seating. So at a minimum, we're having a seat in between people. So we're limiting the capacity of our buses to less than half of what it normally would be, and making every effort possible to limit it additionally down to 10 people. So we're doing the best we can to maintain that safety space, and in most cases, we can have that full necessary separation anyway.
Excellent. Well, if people are interested in taking advantage of the free bus Saturday or utilizing our buses at all, what's a good website they can go to, or a good place they can go to find out information on the routes?
Sure. Your best first stop is going to be wichitatransit.org. On there you can find all of our routes, our bus system map, information on fares. There's an online trip planner. We also have a mobile application, MyStop Mobile, that's available for Apple and Android devices. What's nice is you can see the buses in real time, so you can track the location. So there's a lot of technology tools that are useful for that.
Oh, excellent. Excellent. Well, all right. Well, Megan, I know that we're live, and the purpose of going live is to make sure that we can take questions from people watching on Facebook. What do we got that people might be interested in asking?
We got one earlier from a lady who was wondering when the trolleys will return.
Oh, that's a question for transit. What's going on with the trolleys?
Well, right now the queue line is out of service and has been since, I believe, March 17th. And we intend to keep it out of service until at least after the stay-at-home order is lifted. The nature of the queue line is highly for socialization, getting out for entertainment, nightlife, restaurants, things like that. So when we do bring it back, we want to make sure that we do it in a responsible way and a responsible time. So that's likely going to be well after the stay-at-home order ends and when we start to see a return to normal activity as we saw before. So we don't have a firm date on that, but it's not going to be in the immediate time.
Okay, so the purpose of the queue line is more for the restaurants, the stuff that's kind of closed down right now. So
that's just
taking it offline. It allows
right.
maybe a cost savings there, and also
it's certainly for normal transportation too. But just from what we saw, the usage and the hours that it's open, it tended to make itself more available to the discretionary travel and things like that.
Excellent. And for those of you watching online right now, if you have a question, feel free to type it in, and Megan will read us the question and make sure that you get your answer. Megan, do we have another question?
We just have one more. It might be good to remind people where they can get a bus pass.
Sure. Bus passes can be purchased at nearly all Dillon's locations in town. So quite a few locations to get those. You can purchase them at the Downtown Transit Center. And of course, cash is also accepted. Right now, we prefer as little contact as possible, so passes are preferred. But if you have exact change, cash is accepted on the bus as well.
Excellent. So any more questions, or are we good?
That's it.
All right, well, thank you everyone for following along. Again, we have free buses on Saturday, particularly until the end of June for those people who either need it or just want to utilize it. And make sure you go to wichitatransit.org to check out the bus routes or to download the app. I want to thank Nate for being here and for sharing with us some of the information about how the buses are staying disinfected and safe during this crisis. And, you know, we look forward to, on the other side of this, doing what we can to make our transit system, promote our transit system, and make it as user-friendly as possible. So we thank you for being here.
We look forward to that. Thank you for having me.
All right, thank you.